Good morning, everyone. I, CH Army Atul Shah, on behalf of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee ICI, welcome all the participants to today's webcast on ethics in action, developing the skill that make you a trusted professional. So I welcome today's resource person, CA Bhavesh Mahajan, and all others present over here. Before we start our session, I would like to introduce our Bhavesh sir. He is a distinguished chartered accountant and a senior partner of Bhavesh Mahajan and Company, Amritsar. He has a professional experience of audit, assurance, taxation, banking, financial consultancy, strategic advisory, and known for his integrity and governance driven leadership. He has also done ICAI certification, including DISA, forensic auditing and fraud detection, GST, AI for the chartered accountant, and have served as an end-panel faculty with ICAI. He has also held key leadership position as a secretary and vice chairman of ICAI Amritsar branch and secretary of Income Tax Practitioner Association Amritsar. Deeply committed to social and educational causes, he is co-founded YAKP Private Limited, a socio-economic startup providing financial literacy, and serves as a founder board member of Teja Singh Samudri Viksit Amritsar Foundation and a treasurer of Vidya for All. His blend of professional excellence and ethical values and social responsibility makes him a respected voice in accountancy and finance fraternity. With this brief introduction, I welcome Bhavesh sir, and now the floor is all open for your deliberation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chami. So good morning, everyone. Rather good afternoon, everyone. This is CA Bhavesh, as already told by Chami. So we will be taking up today's session on this topic of ethics in action, developing the skill that make you trusted professional. Now, the word itself speaks about it. Ethics in action. We as a chartered accountant have always been considered to be one of the most ethical professionals in the world. Our government has given certain power to us, the power to attest, the power to certify certain things, and the court to the highest level have always accepted our certification to the best, considering that we have done it in the most ethical and most integrated manner. Now, this trait of ethical performance, this trait of ethical journey of our profession since 1949 till today have gone for leaps and bounds. There has been many changes. There has been many things that have come before us. And over the period of time, we have strongly built our ethical code in such a manner that at present we are at par with the international ethical standards also. So ethics in action is what we are going to see today in today's presentation, that how our actions should be so that more than the words, our ethical performances, our actions should speak themselves about our ethical personality. Now, the point is developing the skill that make you a trusted professional. When we are talking about being a trusted professional, so trusted professional itself is a thing that can be developed only and only when we work in the ethical manner and the most ethical way. So as you can see, ethics is knowing the difference between what you have to right to do and what is right to do. Please understand the difference, very sharp, thin line of demarcation. Have a right to do and what is right to do. I can have rights. We always talk about rights, our rights, constitution and otherwise also. But hardly we talks about the duties that we are required to perform. And ethics is all about those duties. Performing those duties, performing those works in a manner that everyone consider it to be fair enough. We always say that we want to change the world, but the best thing we can do is do our work in the most ethical manner, the work we are required to do, so that the world itself changes. We can't change others, but we can maintain our own ethical system. So in a manner that others are bound to get on a right way, the way we are doing it. So ethics is knowing this difference. What exactly is the difference between what we have and what right we have, and what is the right way of doing those our things. So if we can see over here, why ethics matter more than ever. We always ask certain things. Why ethics? Because I used to take lectures and sessions on this ethical issues, professional ethics at student level also, and also as a profession in the professional meetings also. And it's always a question in the mind of the listeners and others, why the institute always talks about ethics. What is so important about it? What is so much relevance of this ethics? Even means when I talk with the students, then I always refer to that in auditing subject of CA final. Almost 35% of the weightage is given to this topic of ethics. So is it so important? Is it so relevant? Yes. Why ethics matter? The trust profession. Our chartered accountancy stands on the cornerstone of trust economy. Every signature, every report, and every financial statement carries the weight of professional credibility. Anything signed by us, anything said by us, anything reported by us is said to be thing that matters a lot and is going to affect so many public at large. Whenever we say that we have attestation power, the power given by the Constitution of India. So you can think about this thing that in 1949, when the government of that time thought about this profession or setting up an Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, how much trust they have in us, how much trust they thought that the profession can give to the public at large, that if our single signature of attesting a report, of giving an opinion of true, fair opinion on the financials of anything can lead to massive investments, can lead to the massive fundings, can lead to the trust of the people coming into that organization whom we are certifying. So you can understand that in era of increased scrutiny and stakeholder expectation, ethics have evolved from a compliance requirement to survival skills. It now not just the compliance that we have to go do our work ethically. It's not just the ethical system of doing the thing that is a compliance in nature, but it's more about our work culture. It's more about our surviving skill. Because if we will leave ethics, automatically the world or the commerce thing will leave us, because everyone in the society is sitting over there to finish off the chartered account. You have seen in the past that many a times even a single mishappening done by any of our fellow colleagues gives a bad name to the profession. They never call that if a particular person has done it, always the news headline is a CA has been caught doing this. That means a big plot is put on the profession at a large. So it's ethical work that has always helped us to survive and always helped us to keep our profession at highest point whenever we talk about in the chartered accountants in the society. The profession's value propositions rests entirely on public trust. Any profession can be put to dust if the public is not trusting us. Our profession over the period of time has earned this trust only. We always put it out on offices, otherwise that you can rely on us because we do our work in the most ethical manner. When that trust erodes, the consequences extend far beyond. Individual practitioner, they impact entire firm, professional bodies, and credibility of financial markets themselves. As I have already said, that this a single unethical work known to the public brings a very bad name of the organization at large, of the body at large, of the profession at large. I still remember those words of 1st July 2017 when our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, said certain things about our profession. And it was largely reported of this thing because he has been given the perception that we are not doing our work in a best of the manner. But later on, he himself realized this thing that just a some non-compliance cannot lead to the bad name to the whole of the profession. And he himself recognized our contribution to the success of GST in implementation of GST in the country. That's the way our profession stand. That's the way our thinking. But again, somewhere or the other, down the line, one or two incidences that happens again brings us to the challenge of reviving our trust in the public at large. Ethics has a direct business impact. Client retention depends on ethical reputation. Automatically, if you want to retain the client in the long run, it is only by way of your ethical practices and by way of your ethical work that you can retain it. You cannot retain the client on a monetary values only. You can only retain the client, and those clients who value those ethical practices will always be with you, no matter what is the financial burden they have. Brand credibility drives competitive advantage. It's always a brand. Look, our ethics stop us from doing the direct advertisement. We can't we spend money and put up our advertise ourselves in a manner that chartered accountant professionals do. But again, it's our brand. Brand is built by a long work or ethical work of ours over the period of time that we have put it in our practice. Regulatory compliance protects practice licenses and stakeholder confidence influence market value. Stakeholders' confidence. Please understand one thing. It's the confidence of our stakeholders in the economy who have relied upon us, who have given us that trust that if we sign certain things, it is unquestionable. Enron, post-Enron, Satyam and ILFS, the message is clear. Ethics is no longer optional. It's essential for professional survival and success in modern practices. We will discuss some of the effect of this Satyam and Enron in the coming slides. But just to give you this, that whenever these type of irregularities have happened, the profession has been put to a corner very badly. It has affected a lot. The people's trust on us has eroded more than the time it has taken to be built. Please remember one thing. It takes years and years to build a trust, but just a moment to break it. And we as the thought bearer of this profession needs to keep this trust alive. Just giving a small bird eye view of ICAI Code of Ethics framework so that you can correlate how the institute also depends so much on the ethical part. The ICAI Code talks about the independence, integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, and professional competence. These 5 pillars on which the whole of our Code of Ethics is standing. And the biggest pillar of this is independence. Even the independence standards has been introduced in the latest ICAI Code of Ethics that was introduced in 2020. What is independence? Maintaining objectivity free from conflicts of interest or undue influence. It also talks about independence of mind and independence in action. Till the time we are independent in our mind and in our action, no one can question us. Now, what is independence in mind? Independence in mind means we are free from all sort of influences and coercions and any sort of self-review, self-benefit. Maintaining the objectivity. We are objective in our view without any subjective influence, without any sort of undue influence, and maintaining it to the best till the end, so that we are able to give our opinion to the in the most fairest manner. It's nothing like when we see the lady of justice, she's blindfold. It's also just in the same manner, we are also expected that we should go purely on the basis of the evidences and the things that are brought to our notice, and also through our own investigation and on our own auditing systems, the information that whatever comes to our before us, we have to make frame our opinion and give our report on the basis of those things only, without being affected by any sort of other things. The other point, the main thing is about the integrity. What is integrity? Straightforward and honest in all professional relationships. We are going to go deep into the matter of integrity in the coming slides and look into that how integrity is so much important and what exactly is integrity that can make the professionals at present who are in practice and even not in practice to give the deliver best in their whatever work they are doing. Objectivity, not allowing bias or conflict to override professional judgment. Our objective approach to any of the thing, any of the work we are doing will always help us to keep our mind independent of any sort of influences or conflicts. Because when we think about anything objectively, without any preconceived notions, without any preconceived opinions, it will always help us to get a broader view of anything. It will always help us to give the best of to take the best of the judgment between the questions raised in our mind, what is right and what is wrong, and what to do and what not to do. But with the objective view, with a clear mind, we can always give the best of the judgment in our work. Confidentiality. Look, trust. We in the earlier slide we talked about the trust. Whom we trust. We always trust someone whom we can believe that if anything is told to him or if anything is known to him, he will always remain confidential. He will always be, he will not leak out or give away any of the information which is not required to be known by anyone else other than the statutory requirements. So this trust is basically the confidentiality, respecting the privacy of information acquired through professional work. When we are in profession, when we are in practice, we deal with so many people, with so many clients, with so many members, public at large. But with same, they can be from the same line, they can be from the same field, but at the same time, having the information of all of them and with us also requires that we don't share the information of one client with another. And that is the trust or the thing that the clients have in us. And with that trust only, they share so many things with us, even about their personal matters, because they know that we chartered accountants can be trusted at core. And that is the confidentiality that we have to bring in our public as well as personal lives. Professional competence, maintaining knowledge and skill at the level required for clients. Look, the way the economy is changing, the way the scenarios are changing, day in, day out, new changes are coming in different laws, different things, and different practices. And it's our professional competence that can always help us from doing the work in the most integrated and honest and ethical manner. Reason being, because if we are updated, we are competent enough, no one, we can give the best of the services to our clients, we can give best of the information to our clients and do our work also in the best of the manner. Reason being, we know what are the new changes or new challenges that has come up. Whenever we talk about professional competence, I always feel proud as a member of this fraternity that our institute has one of the best model of CPE training. This concept of CPE training, continuous professional training by education or continuous professional education of all the members, has always helped us to get back to our core. Every year when the budget comes out, we always think that we need to be we need to know about the budget, but can you understand the importance of these CPE programs? These CPE programs help us to decode the whole big budget with the not in a normal manner by our trusted professional, by our trusted speakers across the world, across the country. They help us through these CPE programs to remain updated on different topics, different things, and different aspects of the profession. And these updation only help us to build our professional competence to the best so that we can deliver to our clients what their requirement is. The 2020 revised ICAI code aligns with IFAC principles, shifting from rule-based to principle-based guidelines. Please understand one thing. Rule-based to principle-based means it's more about the principle, substance over form. It is about the principle that we are talking about in the new code of ICAI code 2020, which is again going to for a further revision in a couple of months, as the draft exposure has already been released by the institute. But again, in that draft, it is more about clarifying the certain thing, clarifying more principles, making the things more easy. Easy means easy to understand the code and the importance of the ethics in our profession. It empowers professionals to apply ethical judgment in complex real world situations. Day in, day out, we deal with so many questions, so many situations, complex situations in our real world practices. And there, the the basic principles of independence, integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, and professional competence needs to be taken care about so that our ethics are nowhere compromised. There are so many ethical dilemmas around us. Look, as a professional, when we talk about how we can be made a trusted professional, first of all, we have to understand the challenges. First, we have to understand what are the different ethical dilemmas actually which comes before us when we deal in day-to-day life. So as you can see, these are very common, irrespective of what type of firm we are working in, what type of organization we are working in, Big 4, Big 10, small, SME, proprietorship, whatever. These are the common challenges that we face day in, day out in our profession. Client pressure. Long-standing client pressures you to adopt aggressive accounting treatment to reduce their tax liability beyond what's technically supported. We just now have completed our tax audit schedules. Each one of us have done the tax audit as per the requirement of income tax law. And not only now, since the time this tax audit has been introduced, the client has been pressurizing the members or the practicing chartered accountants to reduce their taxes so that certain information is not revealed. Always the client come up with a thing, sir, please help us. Don't report this thing. Don't report that thing. We have done this thing. So this is the ethical dilemma we face day in, day out. The question is, do you risk the relationship by saying no or compromise your professional standard? Look, we chartered accountants over the period of time has developed relations with our clients. And we are one of the professionals, or we are one of the profession where we are more related to the client, we are more attached to the client, we think about us, about the client, and that is the reason we always fight for the client till the last effort, till the last thing. We always think about the client. I firmly believe this thing that we always say that the profession of medical is a noble profession. But I think the profession of chartered accountants is a more noble profession than any other profession. Reason being, we always think about the benefit of the client. We always think about the prosperity of the client. We always think about how our client is going to grow. But in that thinking, in that process, we sometimes link to cross the line of professionalism between the client and the professional. And that is where the biggest challenge arises of saying no to unjustified demand of the clients. Other major conflict that we see, or the major challenge we see around us about the ethical dilemma, is senior override. During an audit, you identify material control weakness Your senior partner suggests downgrading the finding to maintain the client relationship. Sometimes you are burdened with the senior's pressure. You are burdened with the senior thing because they don't want to lose the client, so they ask you to do your work sometimes in a manner that is not ethical. I'm not saying that our seniors are not following the ethics, but point is कि you as an individual who himself is a chartered accountant, or you as an individual who himself is a professional, have to keep the ethical part at upfront. But the challenge comes when your senior sometimes requires you to do certain work or compromise on your integrity or your objectivity. The next challenge that we face is confidentiality breach. Internal team members casually discuss confidential client data in public spaces because you can't control what the members or the person who are dealing with the client data is doing outside the office or otherwise. The public spaces or share sensitive information beyond those with legitimate need to know. You cannot see or check what they are doing at outside their office premises with the client data, at their home, at their friend circle, at their otherwise social gatherings. Sometimes some of your team member boast about one of the good client that you have in the city or otherwise, just to show that how competent he is. But in that line, he sometimes crosses or breaches the confidentiality aspect of the client data. The question arises, when and how do you intervene to protect client confidentially? This is really an inherent weakness or inherent limitation in our confidentiality concept. But again, with due policies, with due systems, with due criticism, we can reduce this risk. Although we cannot totally overrule this risk, but we can definitely reduce this risk to the best possible by doing our work in the ethical and in a more integrated manner. So not only these, there are many other real life scenarios where we face ethical dilemmas day in, day out. These are only a couple of examples, but we as a chartered accountant, we as a professional who are in practice or even in industry, day in, day out faces these type of dilemmas again and again in one way or the other. In today's deliberation, we are basically going to discuss about 4 pillars of ethical practice. As I already said that the topic of today's was having a skill to make us a trusted professional. We have to stress upon how we can be considered as a trusted professional. Trusted professional can be done by doing our practice on the basis of these 4 pillars, or developing our practice, our profession on these 4 pillars of our business. The first one is integrity, how honest judgment drives every professional decision. Next is transparency, why opens mind lasting client trust. After that, accountability, how ownership strengthen workplace relationship, and in the end, and not the last, and one of the most underrated thing, empathy, why understanding guides ethical choice. If one by one we will be going through these 4 pillars, or looking at these 4 pillars, understanding these 4 pillars, how we need to develop our skills ourselves into these to bring these 4 pillars in our practice, so that we can be considered to be the trusted professional. The basic motive of this webinar today is each pillar represents both a personal virtue and a practical skill you can develop and strengthen throughout your career. Together, they create the foundation for becoming a trusted professional who client, colleagues, and committees rely upon. As you can see, each of these 4 are itself not only related to the professional virtue, but also related to the personal virtue. If we inculcate these things, first of all, in our personal behavior, in our personal day-to-day affairs, automatically this will be reflected in our professional work also. This will be reflected on our professional practice also. Reason being, what we do at a personal level, it's more chances to convert it into a professional. If we respect our seniors in a personal relations, automatically that aspect of respect with the seniors and with the peers comes into our professional work also. This is so natural. This is so uh, custom with our regular day-to-day affairs. Because when we talks about ethics, it's always from the day we were born. Sanskar, our family, the values that our family, our schools, our uh, teachers gave, inculcated in us, even when we were not chartered accountant, even when we were toddlers, what to do, how to do, what is right, what is wrong, all those things that were taught to us through our moral sciences, through our more value classes, and teaching by our grandparents at home, by parents at home, they have built up our character, they have built up our personalities. And with these personality, our character only will get transformed into our professional practice. So these four are not only related to our professional work, but also first of all related to our personal virtue. So first pillar is integrity, and integrity drives every professional decision. Integrity drives every professional decision means he, how integrity is to be kept in all our professional as well as personal decision. It's not only a single audit, but over the professional, in each and every professional decision, we have to keep every has to be done. Integrity has to be seen in our every professional decision. So before understanding what integrity in how as a chartered accountant we need to keep integrity at the best, we have to understand what integrity is. We many a time confuse integrity with the honesty. That being an doing the work in a integrated manner means doing it honestly. But integrity is something more and something bigger than honesty. Integrity represents alignment between your values and your action. It's doing the right thing even when no one is watching, even when it costs you something, even when easier option exists. Taking the most right decision, even if it affects you individually, is said to be an integrated decision. Honesty with having strong moral principle is exactly what integrity is. It consists of consistency, honesty, doing the right thing, and accountability. Integrity is sum up of all these four traits. Doing it consistently, doing it honestly, doing it the right way, and taking the accountability or the responsibility of what you have done. So for chartered accountant, integrity isn't about perfection. We all face pressure, make mistakes, and encounter gray areas. What matter is the consistency, which we can apply professional standard and the courage to acknowledge when you have fallen short. Doing a certain thing in the consistent manner, day in, day out, with the full honesty and doing it in a right manner. And even if you are not able to perform to the best of your possible, or if you somewhere fail, you have this guts and the thing to take the responsibility of your failure also. That exactly what is integrity. Maintaining the integrity in practice will automatically get things when we do all these four things regularly. Integrity in your daily work, signing reports only when evidence truly supports conclusions. Resisting management influence on professional judgment. Ensuring audit documentation reflects actual work performed. Speaking up when you notice potential ethical violation. Admitting mistake before others discovers them. Please understand one thing. Other than profession, whenever we talk about it, the best example of integrity that I can give is whenever we move on the road, we know that we are required to wear a helmet if we are moving on a two-wheeler. We are required to wear a seat belt if we are moving in a four-wheeler. But wearing the helmet and wearing the seat belt, whenever we start from our journey, without thinking whether there will be any police personnel or traffic police to look into it or not, standing at the red light, even if no one is watching or there is no camera over there to see your action, is what integrity is. Abiding by the law without saying whether anyone is there to look at our action or not. We are not there to do it for someone else. We are doing it for ourselves because that is right. That is the right way of doing it. Wearing a helmet, wearing a seat belt, not jumping the red light is the right thing to do. Even if we get a chance, even if we get a thing, if we don't avoid it, if we don't overlook it and do our work in the most lawful manner, that is integrity. Without fearing, without considering whether someone is watching or not. Look, God is always watching. We always say that God is watching. God is everywhere. So when we say that we are doing our work without the fear of or without someone else fear or without any other thing, but because it is right, we are doing it because it is the right way of doing it, that is integrity. Speaking up when you notice potential ethical violence. We always say that one who causes injustice is a criminal. But one who keeps silent when he can speak against that injustice is an equivalent criminal in the equivalent manner. So if we are not speaking up when we are required to speak, even after knowing what is, if something is getting wrong, then that is not at all being honest or being intelligent. It's our duty. It's our duty to speak up or raise our voice against the injustice that is being done or against the wrongdoing that is happening. Keeping us silent and not looking at it and saying that we have overlooked this thing because we never saw it is not going to serve you in a long term. You need to put up your authority. You need to stamp it your authority that yes, this is right, this is wrong, and whatever is happening is wrong, and I need to convey this to the required person without being keeping on. If someone else points out our mistakes, it can lead to a penal actions. But if we have already known our mistake or we come to know our mistake in a timely manner, it is our responsibility to admit that mistake to the stakeholders, to tell them that we erred in certain things because to be err is a human. If you will do work, you will make mistake. Definitely. No one is perfect till the last point. Everyone who is doing the work is bound to make certain mistake, but the person is right, person is ethical or integrated if he admits that mistake without anyone, before anyone else pointed to him. If I have come to know a particular mistake in my audit or in my audit report, and before any other authority points it out to us, and I need to revise that report, I need to come up with a better, a right report by making required changes in it and not by sleeping over it. So that is the integrity in our daily life. Key insight is integrity isn't binary. It's built through thousands of small choices that compound over a career. Each ethical decision strengthens your professional foundation. We make decisions day in, day out. It's not only related to the profession, in regular daily life also. Doing the things what is right. Doing the thing in the right manner without thinking about whether anyone is looking or not. Whether thinking about whether I have a chance to not doing it in this manner. I am not going to have a chance at all to not doing it in this manner because I know this is right and I have to do it even if it's tough it is long way or it is a difficult route. I need to follow that route because I know it is the right way. So taking that small choices thousands of times makes a big judgment. So if you will do small choices in an integrated manner, it automatically inculcates in you, in your day-to-day affairs, in your day-to-day decision-making process, and slowly, what you are doing it in a rightful manner. So as I said, one of the costliest issue that happened was Satyam scandal. India's Enron movement in 2009, where integrity was kept at stake at large. What exactly happened? Satyam Computers, which was one of the biggest IT revolution in the IT time at that time in 2000s, when India was booming like anything. Once India's fourth largest IT company revealed a 7,000 crore accounting fraud. His chairman admitted to inflating revenues, falsifying accounts, and creating fictitious assets over several years so that their price can increase, their wealth can increase, their market capitalization can increase, so that they can get best of the projects. The fraud involved fabricated bank statements, fake invoices, and systematic manipulation of financial records, all while auditors signed off on the accounts. It's really a great dark blot on the accounting profession at that time. The very basics of account statement, fake invoices, and system means if we cannot do our work in the manner, means nowhere by following simple auditing standards, by following simple auditing procedures, anyone could have be able to bring out these fraudulent work by the management to the at the very first year. But what happened is that the auditors failed to do their work in the most integrated and most ethical manner. They didn't do the thing what they were required to do in a right manner. And it has a devastating effect. About 53,000 employees face job uncertainty. Stock prices collapsed from 179 to 11. Investor lost about more than $2 billion. Many people who trusted our signed balance sheets, our signed financials, stating that they are fair and right, ultimately lost so many of their savings, so many of the things. Criminal proceedings against executives and even the auditors led to stricter audit regulations across India. The scandal of Satyam ultimately woke up the whole of the regulatory requirement in the financial market. It led to so many changes, not only for our profession, but also at the business large. It changed the way the people started looking at the signed financials of chartered accountant. It created so much, as I already said, the trust was built over the period of 50, 60 years, was shaken and was put to dust in a couple of months because of this signing of wrong balance sheet financials of the Satyam company. Ultimately, we have to grow up. We have to understand that client will always try to manipulate, but we as an auditor, we are the stakeholders of the public at large. We are the custodian of the public at large. We are the custodian of the trust that the government and the authorities have put up in us, through us, to give what is required by us. But if we will break it, it will lead to a massive disaster. Ultimately, as I said, that a single misreporting by us can affect public at large. With due respect to all the profession, in case any medical professional do anything wrong, it will lead to a loss of one life. But any chartered accountant who is signing any wrong financial or giving out any wrong opinion can lead to the loss of life and wealth of millions, of many, not only ones, even those whom you don't even recognize, whom you don't even know, because it is through your work, through your reports, through your attestation that you are communicating with public at large. So any of your wrong certification, wrong value, this thing can lead to a lost integrity and can lead to cause a much more bigger harm than any medical or other professional misconduct. The lesson we learned from Satyam was lack of integrity at leadership level doesn't just harm a company. It destroys thousands of lives, erodes market confidence, and triggers regulatory crackdowns that affect the entire profession and entire nation. Satyam was something which ultimately woke up the whole of the nation. Like Enron that happened in US ultimately led to such a big loss to all the professionals and the community at large. We have to basically build the culture of integrity. I'm taking over here one of the example of another IT company which started growing up at the same time when the Satyam was coming, the Infosys. They have a strong ethics infrastructure. Infosys established an independent ethic committee with direct board access and power to investigate concerns without management interference. It's ultimately the culture you cultivate in your own organization. Maybe the client, even in your own offices, even otherwise. They, like Infosys, they have built up a ethical committee. The committee, which is not influenced or working under the board, but is reporting to the board in an independent manner. They even protect whistleblowers. Anonymous reporting mechanism ensures employees can raise concern without fear of retaliation with transparent follow-up process. The employees in the Infosys can bring out if they find anything wrong without revelation of their name and other thing. And it is the duty of the ethics committee to look into the matter to the court so that employees are not feared of being punished or being given any being retaliated by the management if they know whosoever has blown the whistle. Transparent investigation. When allegations arose in 2019, Infosys conducted thorough investigation and publicly disclosed findings, maintaining stakeholders' trust. By declaring that about their investigation and the finding of that investigation, they ultimately caused the trust. They created the trust. Means any of the big names we are talking about at present in the world, there are two types of successes, short term and long term. Short term are always little lived. We have seen people like Malia and these who in short term grew by like anything. But where are they now? But the companies or the organization who have built their culture of integrity over the period of time have been a slow mover, but ultimately the winners. They are the companies who have ultimately made the country proud, who have made their organization not only grow, but the growth has been sustainable. The growth has been continuous. The growth has been in a manner that no one can question about their uh, fundamental. Reason being, they have built it slowly with the principle of integrity over the period of time without any shortcuts, without any short routes, without any unethical norm. This proactive approach to integrity protected Infosys' reputation even when facing serious allegations. The company's ethical infrastructure turned a potential crisis into a demonstration of corporate governance strength. They gave us an example that how a corporate governance, the concept in the company law, the corporate governance that came up first in 2013 Companies Act, they started doing it in a manner that how this should be built in the organization, how the public can trust that their money or the investment is in the safe hands, how they should know because very small investors who don't have even the access to the companies at large can rely on these actions, can rely on your financials that you are putting up, that can rely on through these actions of the company that they are following the integrity principles at core. Now we are going to discuss certain practical tools for maintaining integrity, because the topic is that what type of skills or what type of things we need to keep in our mind so that we can be considered as a trusted professional. So what are the practical tools for maintaining integrity? Documenting everything. Maintain comprehensive audit trails for every significant decision. Whatever decision you are taking, if it is being thoroughly documented, thoroughly thought about, thoroughly discussed, it is going to save you at later stage, even if something unusual comes up. Document protects you when memory fades and provides evidence of your reasoning process. Look, all the reasons that we take, the decisions that we take, they can be a different opinion about that thing. But at any stage, at any point of time, your opinion or your decision is being challenged or is being questioned by any of the authorities, you always have this document which can help you to save you from why you took that decision at that time. So always remember one thing, that it is only the tough decisions that are taken on the basis of the document. The easy decisions or the wrong decisions don't require document, because you have already taken it in a wrong manner. But it's always your right decision, even though it is against the wish of the management, even though it is against the wish of authorities, or even though it's against the wish of your own individual benefit, still the right decision taken will always require the reasoning behind it, because you will be questioned on, about your decision. Then those documents and the evidences you have collected or documented will always help you to justify why you took a decision at that time, which was that ultimately reflected in your opinion. Practice saying no. The biggest challenge in current professional competitive world, saying no. When at whatever time we learn to say no to our client or anyone who is directly affecting our revenue or our benefit, is the time when we actually become professional with integrity. Saying no. Develop script for deciding unethical requests professionally. As I already said, the biggest challenge we face day in, day out is undue demand of the client, undue demand of the in our day-to-day practice of doing something which is not as per the law, it's per the regulation, and which is not ethical. But we should know how to avoid, how to put it in a manner that the client is also not offended and our work is also done in a ethical and a right manner. So we can say that I can understand the pressure, but professional standards require these things become easier with practice, because it is also required to justify ourselves. In our mind, as I said, there are always two parts. One is angel part, the other one is devil part. So in order to pacify the devil part, I need to give myself a strong reasoning, first of all. So I have to practice among ourselves, within ourselves, that how I am going to pacify that devil part, because that devil part is a reflection of our client's undue demand, which is forcing us to take certain steps or certain action which is not right, or which can bring a short term benefit, but in a long term is going to cause a big harm to us as an individual and to the profession at large, and even to the client in some cases. So I need to practice, or I need to justify this thing, how to say no, how to convince ourselves first and then to the client or other person who is asking for undue benefit or undue or putting up undue pressure on us to do certain unethical work. So the day if we will practice this no statement again and again, automatically one day or the other, means we will be able to bring it in our day-to-day affairs, bring it in our day-to-day things by saying no to what is wrong. Keep an ethics journal, record difficult decisions, your reasoning and outcome. This personal reflection tool help you identify patterns and strengthen decision making over time. That's one of the very big practice that we all can do. That whenever we take that tough decisions, we should document it in a form of story or in a form of an example, so that whenever at later stage we can use that journal or ethical recorded story to guide our juniors, to guide our other professional colleagues, or those who also can face this dilemma one day or the other. So ultimately, ethics ethics journal, the decision that is nothing but our experiences, recording our experiences, especially the difficult one, so that those difficult experience decision can help us to take the right decision when the same question arises at later stage. We can fall back on this thing that yes, when I took this decision at that time, even though it was difficult, why can't I take now? So I have to keep it not only to self-motivate ourselves, but also to motivate others, to motivate our juniors, our successors, so that they can also keep this as their guiding principle for them and help them to take the decisions in a best possible manner by sharing our own experiences. Mentor others. Again, this is the extended line of keeping an ethic journal, that mentoring of the juniors, mentoring of the peers, mentoring of others, teaching ethical reasoning to junior colleagues reinforces your own standards while building a culture of integrity throughout your organization. We have to lead by an example. If we will not do things in an ethical manner, how we are going to preach it to our juniors? How we are going to teach them about this thing in this manner? So ultimately, it is our mentoring. We have to come into a mentor stage. We all have articles. We all have staff in our offices, and they all look upon us. Look, articles talk about their principles outside the offices, and if you will do the things in a rightful manner, you are definitely going to be in this thing. So ultimately, what is happening is you have to lead by an example, and this example can be only done if you are doing it things in a rightful manner. So ultimately, you are mentoring. Take the role of mentor. Take the responsibility. Become the leader and lead by an example. Your lead by an example will help you to bring integrity in yourself, because when you come step into the shoes of a teacher or a mentor, automatically you tend to do something that is right rather than do it in a wrong manner, because you know that your action, your things is going to affect your followers, your students, your staff. So ultimately you have to do it in a right manner. What pressure challenges you integrity most often? Your integrity means what type of challenges questions your integrity most often? Client demand, firm expectation, or time deadline. Sometimes even this time deadline is also one of the biggest challenges nowadays. We sometimes in the question of or in the light of short of time or less of a time tend to do something which is not right, because time is not in our favor, or there is a deadline we have to meet. So let's take a shortcut, but that shortcut is not going to be help us in a longer run. Understanding your vulnerability is the first step towards protecting your professional standard. We have to be, first of all, do our own SWOT analysis. What is our vulnerability? To what out of these, whether we are more towards client demands or we are not able to do our work in a timely manner, or this, which are the things that can at point cause a risk to our integrity? We have to identify that. And once we identify our risks, automatically we need to work on those risks. So we first of all have to do our own SWOT analysis. What are the things or challenges we are facing in our day-to-day affairs? Because every organization can have different type of challenges. Every organization can have different type of risks. So it is each one of us who have to do our own analysis to find out what are the things that are going to challenge our integrity at large. Moving upon to the next part is transparency. The integrity cannot be reflected if we are not transparent in our action, because we are talking about ethics in action. Ethics in action can only be built if we are transparent. What we are doing, it is being reflected in our work. So transparency builds lasting client trust. If we are transparent with the client in our working, in our day-to-day professional affairs, automatically the client rely on us. At short point of time, the client may feel offended or may feel hurt because of our transparency, but in a longer run, they will understand that we never took or hid anything from them. We reflected what actually was. We were transparent with the client whom we are serving. So transparency is basically considered in a good manner by all the persons with whom we are transparent. It is a very positive virtue, although it can sometimes lead to some of the setback in small run, but in a longer run, always the person who is transparent in their working or in their approach is always considered to be more trustworthy rather than the untransparent. What is the power of transparency beyond legal disclosure? Transparency means openness and honesty in all professional communication. We are talking about openness and honesty in all professional communication. If we find something which can lead to, even though it is legal, but is not ethical or is not as per the integrity we hold, we need to tell it to our client. We need to disclose it to our client. And being transparent in our approach, yes, although it is legal or it is not I will not say it is legal. I will say even though it is not illegal to do, but still is not in the interest of the nation, in the interest of the organization, in the interest of the law. So we need to be careful about this thing. And with this transparency, we need to guide the client. We need to tell the client that one day or the other, this can cause harm to you. Not just meeting minimum disclosure requirement means, but proactive sharing information to stakeholders need to make informed decisions. When we talk about notes to account in our financials, we say that the organization has disclosed certain things in the notes to account, but we need to go deep into it. Is it the disclosure only related to the minimum disclosure, or is it the disclosure which actually is disclosing the affairs of that particular aspect of the financials? Disclosure with proper justification and proper detailing is actually going to serve the purpose of financial statements. But disclosing something without revealing the actual affairs and without setting out the right tone of that disclosure will not going to serve any purpose to the stakeholders and can ultimately lead to the loss to the stakeholders. So we need the transparency aspect require us to be a transparent in all our affairs, because when we are being transparent, we require that the disclosures if made in the financials are to be disclosed in a manner that it gives total clear picture about what we want to say. It is about avoiding half truth, meaning explaining limitations of your work, acknowledging uncertainties and resisting the temptation to present overly optimistic conclusions. Because disclosures done in the best possible manner will help the stakeholders or the users of that information to make the right decision without knowing the half truth. Because half truth is equivalent to a lie. It is not going to help or not going to benefit anyone in a right manner or in a constructive manner. So we have to be transparent in whatever we are doing. We have to be transparent in our opinion. We have to be transparent in our judgment. We have to tell ki why a certain opinion has been made, or why a certain opinion has not been made, why a certain qualifications has been issued, and why a certain disclosures have not been made by the client at large. But this transparency has to be through our professional competence. We should first of all know that why, how this is going to affect, and in what large context it is going to matter. Why it matters for CAs? Transparency. Why it matters to CAs? Clients, regulators, investors, and the public rely on your word as truth. Look, always remember one thing. Whenever client falls into any problem, he always says, sir, see, our chart CA has done this. Our CA has signed it. Our CA is certifying it. So I am illiterate person. How would I know? But our CA knows everything. That's why he has signed it. So ask him. So he must be knowing about this thing. So ultimately what happens is every burden, every problem fall onto your own shoulders. So it is better to be transparent at the very first stage of issuing an opinion, so that at later stage, if anyone or the client himself puts a burden of explanation upon you, you can justify your decision, you can justify your opinion, you can justify your stand that you took at the time of issuing that report or opinion. Your professional opinion carries weight precisely because of the professional reputation for transparency. What audit is? Basically, audit is a transparency. Audit is something you are doing which the client has failed to do, or which a client has not disclosed properly. So your opinion, qualified one specially, is basically the transparency aspect of yours. That is the requirement from you by the stakeholders. When that transparency erodes, the entire trust ecosystem collapses. We have seen it in Satyam, we have seen it in Enron, we have seen it in other cases also, where we fail to be transparent in our approach, in our action, in our reporting. That is where the trust erodes, and that is where the collapse happens. But in wherever we have been transparent in our working, we have been transparent in our whatever we are sharing or we are opining in our day-to-day professional work, ultimately that transparency is reflected through our working and help us to protect not only the society at large or the stakeholders at large, but our own self as a professional and as a and our profession at large. 87% client retention is how who stay with transparent advisor long term. What does this mean? This means that whenever you are transparent with your client in your advisory function also, your 87% clientele come back. They stay with you because they know that whatever you are advising or whatever the advisory you are issuing to the client is in the best of their. They know that you will advise to their for their benefit only. They know that whatever you are telling, that does not include anything hanky-panky. They know that they can rely upon you because you are going to guide them in the best possible manner for their benefit only. Although in short term, they can find it a restriction, an obstacle, but they know in the long run they are going to meet it. And why we are talking about 87%? Because 13% will be there who will never value your work. Whatever you do, however you do, they will always. That is a human nature, human society, human system at present. We cannot rule out. We can never achieve 100% this thing. But experience talks about that 87% of the client will get retained and will come back to you because you were transparent to them from the day one in all your working, all your advisories, all your functions, in all your work. 3x becomes the referral rate. Automatically, when the client is satisfied by your transparent approach, they will automatically refer the other people also to you because they know that your workings is transparent. Let me share an example with you. I have one professional tie-up in an individual level at here with one of my company secretary friend. And I always refer to them, some of my clients, because I know that he is transparent in his work. He is very much reasonable in his work. He will not do anything thing which can ultimately cause harm to my client. And I know I can rely on him at any point of time in his work, because if I am doing the audit, his secretarial work, his secretarial audit, company secretary work is going to protect the client. And at many of times, he also guides me in some of the dilemmas that I fall into while doing my professional work. That is where it happens. So ultimately, because of his transparency work, because of his transparent nature of doing the thing and telling forehand what is right, what is wrong, and how it should be done in a rightful manner, is automatically suits the client also. And many a clients feel happy also that they have been properly guided at first, at first instant itself, without being falling trap to any of the unethical system or any of the wrongdoing, because every client is different. And most of the clients are happy when you deal with them in the transparent manner, whether it is a financial aspect or it is a non-financial aspect. As we talked about the integrity loss in the Satyam case, we are talking about the transparency failure in the IL&FS case. Lessons from Indian infrastructure crisis. Infrastructure leasing and financial services, IL&FS, collapsed in 2018. We all know this thing, triggering a liquidity crisis across India financial market. The company defaulted rupees 91,000 crore in debt, exposing years of inadequate disclosures about its deteriorating financial position. The position was deteriorating, but neither the auditor transparently reflected the position, nor the management was doing it in a right manner. So ultimately, it piled up, and a stage came when the company collapsed. The transparency failure was understanding debt obligation. They understated debt obligation. They never fully disclosed the total debt obligation, short term, long term, etc. They were never reflected in a rightful manner. Inadequate risk disclosure. They never told or guided or disclosed the ultimate risk that they are having in their portfolio management. They never guided their clients or the stakeholders in a rightful manner and misguided them about their risk disclosures. Complex group structures obscuring exposure. They made themselves they created such a complex group structure that cross holdings and cross investments ultimately led to a deterioration in the value of investment. Delayed recognition of non-NPAs. Look, there was a time, means one of my core competence is in the bank audits. So for the last 20 years or so, I have learned one thing, that whenever you keep on postponing the recognition of the NPA, it ultimately leads to a bigger loss. NPA at a substandard stage can easily be upgraded, but when it reaches the loss case, it always leads to a problem. So ultimately, it's the case where we are going to find this thing. So what were the professional consequences of this thing? Audit firm faced regulatory investigation, partners banned from practice, damaged reputation affected other clients, and stricter audit requirement imposed industry wide. So again, just like a Satyam, this led to a strong implications on the audit professionals and their partners and their reputation in the society at large. The broader impact was banking sector liquidity crisis, because IL&FS had a stake in many of the banks, as well as banks and many of the stakes through the IL&FS. Mutual fund redemption freezes, infrastructure projects delayed, and investor confidence severely shaken. So as you can see, whenever there is a default on the part of our organization or our profession, it does not affect a single person. It affects the community at large, its society at large, economy at large. So any of that non-transparent work done will ultimately cause a bigger harm. The harm which will now put control of one's individual film. But taking a right transparent decision at a right time, at the time of disclosure itself, is going to save you in a long run. Lack of transparency doesn't just harm immediate stakeholders. It creates systematic risk that can destabilize entire market and permanently damage professional requirements. We are here to do the work in a rightful manner. So our transparency is only the way through which we can perform the right work. Next thing come about is transparency in client communication. What is transparency in right client communication? Explain implications clearly. You have to be very clear while dealing with your client that whatever wrong they are doing, it can cause what type of implication to them. Don't give false hope. Don't keep them in any sort of allurement. Don't just tell client what the accounting treatment is. Explain why it matters. We need to educate our client why this particular accounting treatment is, what risk it creates, and what alternative exists. Help them understand consequences of their choice. Client will always come to do with something which might not be right, but you have to guide them. You have to tell them what is right, what is wrong. You have to speak about this thing. If this is right, why it is required. Because nowadays, what happens is if you will just say no or yes, or this cannot be done or this can be done, it will not give a benefit to the client. But if you will do it with a reasoning, proper and justified reasoning behind it, they will understand it. They will know what are the risks, what are the chances, and why we are saying off, or why we are protecting them, or why we are asking them not to do a certain thing. So ultimately, it is the consequences of their choices that we need to tell about them. We need to inform or warn them about the hard consequences. Avoid technical jargon. At the same time, when we are guiding them, we need to guide them in a simplest of the manner, in the simplest of the language, rather than using the hard or tough language of the legal language or other regulatory language. Because we as a professional, we as a chartered accountant have put in so much of effort to understand those legal languages. But public at large or the client at large don't understand those things. So it's our duty to make them understand the tough language or the tough regulations or the tough legal jargons in a simplest of the manner and decode them so that they can understand it and affect and make them a practice for them so that they can use it in a best possible manner. Document key advice. Always, whenever you are communicating with the client, document it. Try to not to do it on a phone. Even if you have discussed something on a phone, try to put up a message or a WhatsApp about just like a crux of that meeting or discussion, whatever it is, so that at later stage, whenever the client comes to do about anything, you can refer to it. That's, see, I have already warned you through this message or through this mail or through this letter or through this document that what is right and what is wrong. So it's not my fault. You took a wrong choice and now it's your decision. But I have always given you a right advice. So it is very much important that you keep written record of the significant recommendations, client instructions, and disclose limitations. You also need to document the client instructions, because client will always rebuke its statement. They will always say, retract from its statement. They will always say, we never said this. It is you who took the decision. It is you who told us. So you need to remind the client, sir, see, this was the message that was sent by you. This was the decision that was taken by you. You only confirm these things. Then ultimately this thing happened. So otherwise you will become the scapegoat. You will become the target of a wrong decision. But in order to avoid that, it is very much important that you document all your key findings as well as your advices and the instructions of the client, so that at later stage, whenever the client tries to put a blame on you, you are able to safeguard yourself by giving the proper evidences to the client that, see, these are your instructions. Disclosing limitations, be upfront about what your work doesn't cover and assumptions you have made and what uncertainty exists. Professional transparency includes acknowledging what you don't know. We talk about professional competence, but at the same time, the best person is, or the best professional is, who knows about his own limitations, about what he doesn't know. You can gather a knowledge at what you want to gather, but if you don't have a knowledge, at least acknowledge this thing. Ki, yes, I am not in a proper person to guide you about this thing or this thing, rather than giving the false knowledge to the client. You disclose your limitation. You disclose it upfront itself. Ki, okay, this is a particular work, you are good in this work and you are not good in this work, so this will be get done by a third party, or by giving an option to the client, he can get it done from the someone else or somewhere else. So ultimately, if you will not guide being transparent in your limitation, you will fall into doing something which you are not best at. Every professional over here, we chartered accountant, we learn so many things, but we are not best at everything. But giving the right disclosure to the client that what is your professional limitations in certain aspect will help you to protect yourself from giving the best of the services, as well as giving from falling into any sort of misjudgment or miscalculation at later stage. Because client doesn't know what are your limitation. It is you who has to disclose about your limitation and your scope of work. It is very much important that you, at the very initial stage itself, clarify with the client about your scope of work. That is the engagement letter. The engagement letter we take from the client or we give to that is ultimately the thing which help us to describe our scope. Going beyond the scope will always lead to a problem for you and the relation with the client. So be very transparent in disclosing your limitation. There is no harm and no shame in accepting what you don't know, but at least you have warned the client, you have told the client that what is right, what is wrong, and what you can do and what you can't do because of certain limitations. In case of transparency, one of the scenario is the contingent liability dilemma. It does not form the part of the balance sheet in the face of it, but is the below the balance sheet line. But it is very much important. Contingent liability dilemma. The situation we can discuss is your client facing a potential material lawsuit insists on delaying disclosure of the contingent liability until next year financial statement. They argue that the case is unlikely to succeed and disclosing it now would harm upcoming financial negotiation. The client is valuable and the relationship is long-standing, and they are threatening to change advisors if you insist on immediate disclosure. Now, this is the dilemma, because contingent liability is something which can go either way. But if the stakeholders, if the users of the information or the financial, they know about this contingent liability beforehand, they at least can make their risk assessment accordingly. But by not disclosing it at all, what we are doing is we are ultimately asking, we are not being transparent in our proper disclosure, and by not giving the real picture of the case or the lawsuit that is happening, and not helping our stakeholders to make a right decision with the right risk assessment. So the pressure point happen is revenue implication of losing the client, because that client is important to us. It's a big client, and a good percentage of our revenue comes from that. And they have already threatened us that if we will not abide by their instructions of not disclosing the as a contingent liability, they will change the advisor or they will change the auditor. That can cause a harm to us. Second pressure is partner pressure to maintain relationship. Ultimately, they are sometimes what happens is your partner or this is more interested, can insist upon you, as we already discussed, the partner or the senior pressure. We have to tackle it from day in, day out. Client genuine business concern. Although if we go through this scenario, we understand that this can cause a harm to the client, but this is client genuine business concern also. We understand this is the genuineness, but at the same time, we have to keep in mind that how this is going to affect our own self also, our own transparency, because in case in the next year, as they are saying, they are going to disclose it, next year if this thing comes up, at that time the stakeholders might feel back that why this year we are disclosing this thing, but the last year we didn't, because at that time the since the lawsuit is already in presence at present also and didn't come up altogether in the next year. So uncertainty about lawsuit outcome, we never know how it is going to look. We have to take an opinion from the concerner, and always remember one thing, that the consultant or the professional who is taking up this lawsuit on behalf of the client will never admit this thing that they are going to lose this lawsuit. They will always give you the assurance that it is in the favor. It is your professional skepticism and your judgment that will help you to decide or to concern whether how much risk you are going to take regarding the disclosure of this contingent liability. The transparency imperative is professional standards require disclosure when the liability is probable or reasonably possible. The amount can be estimated and the users need the information for decision making. Your response must balance professional duty to stakeholders. Okay, the client's genuine business require concern is there, but at the same time, your responsibility is towards your stakeholders of those things. The users of your accounts who are going to take your statement, your opinion in the manner to make the future investments. Client relationship management, you have to balance between the client relationship management or the way that how the client should be influenced or how the client should be asserted that what you are doing is in the overall interest and the benefit of the client only and not the you. You have to make the client understand that how this disclosure is very much requirement, not in the short term, but in a long term for the benefit of the organization at large. Personal career consideration, you have to take a calculated move that how by losing this one client can affect your career, but at the same time you have to see if you will put into the pressure of the client once now for this non-disclosure of contingent liability, at later stage he can come up with other pressure also, wherein the stake will be bigger, where it will not be only the contingent liability, but other things also, where he will require you to do something which is not ethical. How would you handle this conversation with the client? What alternative solution might address both professional requirement and business concern that you have to discuss, and you have to do the self discussion about these questions, how to avoid these type of dilemma. The transparency definitely pay off in a long-term trust, quality referrals, legal protection, and practice growth. As I already said that transparency might not be in a short term, but in a long term, it is definitely going to pay you because you have created a trust with the stakeholders, with the client, and also if the client will understand in this manner. It will give you a quality referrals, give you legal protection because you know that being transparent, you have discharged your duty and not led to anything which can lead to professional misconduct at later stage. Your practice will definitely grow with your transparent working because it will create more trust with your client, new as well as old. Third aspect of this is accountability. Accountability strengthens workplace relationship. When you take the accountability of your own action, it definitely led to a strong workplace relationship. What accountability really means beyond taking blame, it's just not taking the blame, but taking a blame in a rightful manner. Accountability means owning your actions, decisions, and outcomes, both success and failures. If you want to take the laurels of the success, you should have the courage to take the responsibility of your failures also. It is a bridge between ethical intention and practical execution. You may talk about the ethical aspect, but if you don't take the responsibility of your failure, your ethical aspect will not be reflected in a rightful manner. Transforming good intentions and reliable performances. In professional practice, accountability manifests in multiple dimensions. Personal accountability, delivering on your own commitment. You made certain commitment, and it's your personal duty to deliver on that commitment. If you are not able to deliver it, you need to take the responsibility also of the same for the delay. Team accountability, supporting colleague success. Team accountability means ki if the colleague, because if you are working in a team or as a team, maybe you are a team leader, but ultimately you know that the working of the team. It is on the basis of the teamwork that has you have received the success. But you need to share the success with your team members. But if you are a team leader, you need to take the responsibility of the team as a whole and not to just pinpoint a single member or a single colleague and get out of the or make someone scapegoat, because you as a team leader, it was your responsibility to lead the team in a manner that they give a right result. But if they fail, it is your more failure of yours rather than a team member. Client accountability, meeting service expectation. Whenever the client requires something from you, it always requires a commitment and it requires the accountability also. You cannot keep any of the work open-ended. You need to give the client assurance about whatever the commitment you are giving. You need to keep and client will always hold you accountable for your work. And you should have these guts to take this accountability in a right prospect. Even it will not only impress the client, it will not only help the client to have a more trust upon you, because client knows that if you fail to deliver on a certain aspect, you definitely will take the accountability of the same and will not put undue blame on the client or someone else or make unnecessary excuses. Professional accountability upholds standards. Professional accountability is keeping the standard at the best possible way and doing your work in the most standard form, in the most ethical form. That is the professional accountability. Public accountability comes when social interest, serving social interest. As a member, as a professional, we also are the part of the public at large, service at large. So all our action should be in such a manner that it is going to serve the public or a society at large. None of our action should be derogatory to the service, to the derogatory to the society or to the public at large. And that is our public accountability. If we are doing our work in the best possible manner, in the most civic way, that definitely is going to help the society and the public at large. True accountability isn't about blamed assignment. It's about creating reliable system where everyone understands their responsibilities and deliver consistently. Accountability is not only about blaming. It's about understanding the responsibility. If I understand my responsibility, automatically I will work to perform the best to fulfill the requirement of that responsibility. And if I fail at any point of time or does not reach a right, is not able to meet our deadline, at least that responsibility that we have done will help us to take the accountability, because we know that we tried our best or whatever we did was something, because something failure happened beyond our control. At least it will give us the sense of respect in our own eyes that we did our best, but we failed or we were not able to make it to the end. And I take the responsibility or the accountability of the same, but I know what were the reasons so that I can help to nullify those reasons in the future aspects also. 94% of the employees who stay at firms with strong accountability culture. Wherever there is a accountability culture in the organization, the employees are retained because they know that they will not be made scapegoat unnecessarily because of the failure of someone else or the team leader. Always remember one thing, the team leader is not by the name, but by the action. If you are a team leader or you are leading a team in your office, means even if it's team leader does not only mean a leader in a large organization, you as a head of your own organization is a team leader for the whole. So if you are practicing firm and you are a partner in that and you are this, you are automatically become a team leader. So overall responsibility of taking the team along and taking the best of the decision is your responsibility. And if the employees or your members of your organization knows that you are ready to take that responsibility or you are ready to take the accountability of this thing, of any of the failure, they will feel more secure and more protected and more give their more best output, because they know that whatever they are doing, you are there to take the help them to get out of any of the problem. 67% reduction in error when team practice accountability. When I know that I am going to be accountable for certain things, I will automatically make things doubly sure. Recheck, again check, take different aspects, look at the different options, so that at any point of time, I am not made to be accountable, I don't fail. So the pressure of accountability help you to give the more best from your side. It gives you to get the best out of yours so that you are not failing or held accountable for anything wrong. Because positive accountability for accountability to take the laurels of the success is not so much important, but the accountability, taking the accountability of failure is the toughest part. So you will never like to take that. So it will help you to reduce the error to the minimum, whatever possible. In daily practices, what type of accountability we can do is timely error communication. When you discover mistake, report them immediately before clients or supervisor find them. Early disclosure allow for correction and demonstrative integrity. Identify a calculation error in a tax return and proactively informing the client via corrected version. That is the timely error communication. That is accountability. Okay, the error has happened. Suppose you need to some calculation mistake was there, wrong interest under section 234A BC was being done, or a late fees was not communicated, and you came to know about it, and you immediately inform the client that the earlier tax demand was less and now the tax demand has increased because of this error that has happened on your part. So it will not only help the client to duly discharge his tax liability in a rightful manner and not later on served with penalty notice or additional interest demand. It will help you also to do the work in a rightful way. Acknowledge oversights. When you miss something, own it directly. Okay, you were not a, you oversighted it. It can happen in day-to-day life, and it can happen in day-to-day practice also, that when you are sampling it or you are doing it in a this way, you are automatically get to you sometimes oversight certain things. But if you have done it or you have oversighted certain things, so it's an error, and there is no harm in except accepting your error or your mistake, so that you, because if you will accept it, then only you will be able to rectify it. Avoid defensive blame shifting towards colleagues, system, or if you oversighted it, admit it, yes, I did, but since now it has come to my notice, I will rectify. Meet commitments, honor deadlines and promises to clients and team members. First of all, never make unreasonable commitments or deadlines. Always make the calculative deadlines, always do the calculative deadline and inform the client on a regular basis about the shortfall in the client if at any point of time it is happening. So it is basically going to be the deadline. If circumstances communicates proactively rather than letting deadline pass silently. So it is basically the commitment. If you have made that commitment to the client, make the best of the effort that you meet those commitments. And if at any point of time you fail to do so, you should communicate or to the client in a rightful manner that why the delay is happening and what are the reasons. And if the reasons are because of your own fault or because of some error on your part, you should communicate to the client and let the client know that these are the reasons by which you are not able to meet the commitment. Follow through completely. Follow through completely. Accountability extends beyond initial action to verification of outcome. Ensure recommendations are implemented and issues are fully resolved. It's not only our duty to recommend certain things, but it is also our duty that whatever we are recommending, that is being implemented. Because recommendation without a right action are no good. They are not going to serve any purpose. Because if that recommendations are not being implemented or that recommendations are not being put up in the systems or in the controls, that is not going to serve any benefit. By just recommending is not making you any good. So real accountability is where I follow up and make it and assure that whatever recommendations have been done by us for the benefit of the client, that is being implemented in a rightful and timely manner. When accountability fails, professional consequences arise. Look, in 2021, several high-profile cases highlighted the severe consequences when professionals fail to maintain accountability. Big Four partners face sanctions for independence violation. demonstrating how individual accountability lapses can damage entire organization. As I said, it's not the organization, it's not only you, but along with you, the whole of the organization that faces the consequences of any of your own fault. The partner failed to disclose relationship, creating a audit independence conflicts, violating both firm policies and professional standards. Firm's quality control process identified the breach during the routine compliance review, triggering formal investigation. Individual resigned from partnership, accepting personal responsibility for violation, their impact on firm reputation, and regulatory scrutiny increased across entire practice. Additional quality controls compliance and client confidence temporarily shaken. So ultimately, for not being taking the responsibility of the things in a rightful and timely manner, made you accountable in a wrong sense. It ultimately led to you by putting accountability on you by the law, by institute itself, by disciplinary systems itself. So which has caused a bigger harm on you. Accountability failure doesn't stay contained. It can be lingered on, it can be postponed, it can be delayed, but ultimately the justice is given. Accountability failure doesn't stay contained. They, or one day or the other, they come up. One person ethical lapse triggers consequences for colleagues, clients, and a firm's overall credibility. As I said, we are any of our action in a wrong manner is not only going to affect personal self, but many of us who are attached to us, who are related to us, who are working with us, or an organization or a society, whosoever it is. So it's a far-reaching effect. So we need to be very, very much reasonable and uh, responsible in all our actions, whatever we are doing. The Institute's approach to accountability is the best, one of the best. It has made a public disciplinary portal. Now you can see what actions our institute is taking against the erring members, what type of disciplinary proceedings are taking place. They have put it on a portal, they have put it on a public. Every person can see, go there and check out what type of decisions and what on the basis of what facts and figures the institute has taken decision, and where this institute has made erring member responsible for their actions. It not only created a trust among the members at large that yes, the institute has not only toothless ethical standard, but are actually making those standards working and making those ethics work on for the members, and whosoever member is not doing the work in the true spirit of institute code of ethics is being punished at a right and a rightful manner as per the law of the institute. So it not only brings a trust, it builds a true transparency of the accountability by the institute. It has made the public at large understand one thing, that there is a concept of disciplinary committee, and that disciplinary committee works to the best of the interest of the profession at large. It is not biased, it is not this thing, but it is for the public at large, with the trust which the government ultimately initially framed the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India by giving them the quasi-judicial power to take action against their erring members. This transparency accountability link strengthen the entire profession, turning individual case lessons into collective learning opportunity. These cases, these pronouncement judgments of disciplinary cases by the institute on a public platform, on a public portal, not only help us, the others to understand what ultimately the institute view is on different ethical aspects of different ethical parts, and how that institute basically wants the members and the public at large to see the professionals in the manner which the government wants it, or the stakeholders or the society at large wants the profession to be run in the current scenario. We can create accountability culture by daily revolution, responsibility sharing, implementing brief team meeting, focus on commitment reviews. Don't go for the large or goals or this thing. Go it slowly and slowly in a short target, so that the team members also don't feel pressured and they know that if they will break out the work in a small senses, they can do it in a more reasonable and responsible manner. Continuous ethics training, you need to continuously make your team members and the other friends trained about the regular ethical work. As I said, that we can take the cue from the different professional disciplinary decisions taken by the institute, so that the members are or the colleagues are regularly guarded about what is right and what is wrong, and how the institute sees a particular aspect of an ethical part in what context. Peer feedback system. Sometimes what happen is you are not able to assess your risk or your performance in a rightful manner, but taking the help of your peer to analyze you, to value you, or to revalue you, or make your quality assessment, will only help you to get the best of the thing, because what you can't see, the peer might see in you. So if there is any lapse which you are not able to identify, or you are not able to look into that in that perspective, your peer will help you to identify that and will help you to overcome that shortcoming in your organizational work. Own it mindset. You need to say whatever work you are doing, you need to own it. Whether it is wrong, it gives you success, or it gives you failure, it is your work. As we already always say, whenever we give the exam, it is our own performance. It's if we fail, it's not the responsibility of the institute or any other authority who has given the result. It is our own work that is ultimately given the result that we have got. So we own the work. If the success is owned by us, the failure should also be owned by us. Last and the foremost part is the empathy guide ethical professional choices. Empathy. There are two words, empathy and sympathy. If they look similar to each other, but if we go deep into this thing, empathy is basically feeling with someone, whereas sympathy is feeling for someone. If sympathy is more of a negative trait, I would say, because the sympathy makes you weak, make you feel inferior, but empathy make you feel equal, but with someone whom you can share your experience, feelings you can share with it. So in a team, in a work group, it is more about empathy that needs to go. Because in empathy, you are taking the other person equivalent to you, not feeling sorry or inferior about that person, which will help them to boost their own self-confidence, also their own self-respect. That is more important when we talk about the organizational system. Empathy means understanding the perspective, pressure, and challenges facing clients, employees, and other stakeholders. You need to put yourself into the shoes of the person and see from that perspective what he or she is feeling or is trying to make you understand. Because till the time you will not put yourself into the shoes of the other person, you will not be able to take a objective and a clear-cut view of what the situation is. That will help you to take a right decision, because now you have seen both the perspective, your own, public, and also that of the person who is on whose behalf you are going to take a decision. Why empathy matters? Help navigate complex ethical gray areas. It not only helps you to take out the gray area, because everything is not just right or wrong. There are gray areas where you have to take a right decision, and your right decision will depend upon your empathy. Build strong, more trusting relationship. It will not only help you to make the relationship healthier and strong with your client, with your colleagues, with your seniors, with your juniors. It will also help you to build it more trustworthy, because they know that you are the one, or you are the person who can be trusted upon when it comes to sharing emotions, sharing feelings, sharing thoughts about anything. Might be professional, might be non-professional or personal. Enables creative problem solving that serve multiple interests. It helps you to create many problem solving with different aspects, because now you have the viewpoint of others also with you, or from the point of view by putting yourself into the shoes of the other person. It prevents rigid rule application that harms stakeholders. You need to understand that rules are made for the benefit of the public at large, but those rules, if you think, are not going to serve the public at large in any way, you need to take a decision, bold decision. You need to take a right decision by taking and forcing the rule makers to change the rules so that the public can be benefited at large. Client satisfaction. 2.3 times of the client satisfaction come when you are having an empathic relationship with them. And 77% of the employee get retented when you are having an empathic relation with them. You are feeling for them, feeling with them. Your feelings are mutual, and you know that you are not the boss, but you are the part of the whole of the system in the right same manner the other person is. In professional practice, empathy creates the role balancing compliance with compassion. During busy season, recognize that client business face their own pressure. Look, we as a chartered accountants are doing the work of our profession, but at the same time, client might have different challenges, different section, different question. Firm deadlines matter, but so does understanding when clients are generally overwhelmed versus simply procrastinating. Look, we have to judge the right situation of the client. We have to see with the overall angle of the client. Where we can help the client, we need to help them. But where we see that the client is taking undue advantage of our help or undue advantage of our empathy, we need to put our foot strongly down so that the client understand that he cannot take us for granted. Supporting stressed entrepreneurs, small business clients often wear multiple hats and lack sophisticated financial teams. Look, when we are talking about MSMEs and others, we need to understand that it's not always the same story with them. They are stressed, they are financially in some parts of the country this year, there was a severe flood, there was a severe destruction, there was a war. So we need to understand that how those clients and they are facing the same problem that you are facing. So at present, the certain demands can be prolonged. You can postpone them, you can make them they think and help the clients to understand that in your tough time, we are standing with you. Approaching audit requests with empathy, explaining why documentation matters and offering practice. We cannot put undue pressure on the client when they are already under stress. Addressing staff burnout when team members miss deadlines or produce lower quality work. Investigate whether burnout is the root cause. Because sometimes what happens is regular long working hours can cause a reduction in the value of the in the performance of the staff but without understanding the real reason behind the low performance and unnecessarily putting a blame on them and giving them will not cause any benefit to the long-term relationship with the staff. Understanding diverse perspective is the thing. We have to understand that if we are like I am in North, I have a client in South or a West, we need to understand their culture, their system, their working. So ultimately, everyone has their own culture, own system, and own thing, and we need to respect them, their culture, religions, their festivals, this thing, and help them to become a part of those cultures and this thing so that we can understand in a much better way how the client think and how the staff thinks about everything. COVID-19 responses was one of the best example of empathy where the CAs have either waived off some of their fees part or have even helped their members, staff, etc., their clients. At some places we have even not charged the client in some of the work where we have done for them in the COVID cases because like us, they also are facing the same problem, which is not one of the other case, but all were sailing in the same ship at that time. Empathy in whistleblower investigation has to also to be maintained. Empathetic listening, where the whistleblower is there, we have to listen to the whistleblower in a most empathetic manner by seeing how they are feeling and everything. Bias-free investigation, we need to do the investigation in a bias-free manner so that the whistleblower is safeguarded and the right perspective comes before us in a rightful manner. Confidentiality, respect, protect privacy for both complainant and accused. Look, if something investigation is being done and you are the part of that investigation, you have to listen to the accused also. You have to be empathetic with the accused also, and just not make a preconceived notion of that a person is wrong or right, because sometimes there may be a reason or something, there may be some other aspect also that you need to look into. Organizational healing after resolution address underlying cultural issues that enabled problems. You have to do the post disaster work is the thing that you have to look into. You have to see what actually went wrong in any of the problem that surfaced, and just not identify the problem, identifying the accused, but also identifying the reason and taking the real steps to safeguard those uh, reasons, so that they do not come up in the future. Professional empathy can be built up by through practice ethical listening, schedule dedicated listening time. You should have the dedicated listening time. Suspend immediate judgment. Never take a judgment in a harsh manner, because in judgment taken in a rush time or in a pressure will not are generally going to give a wrong result. You need to have a cool mind and system to take the right judgment. Acknowledge emotional dimension, and start clarifying understanding before responding. You need to understand first the all perspective, not only yours, but the clients also, staff also, and take a rightful decision with an empathetic view. Role play scenario, you need to be a leader. You need to play a role in a way, so that if you are put into a certain situation like that, how will you respond? What will be your perspective? What will be your this thing? You have to understand that also, that since you are not only making the judgment, but you have to understand why the accused or any wrong thing that has happened was done in that manner. Apply the golden rule before taking action. Ask, how would I want to be treated if our positions were reversed? That is what I want to say is, always keep yourself on the other side of the table also, and see how you want yourself to, and do the same treatment while taking your decision. I still remember there was a famous quote about this thing, that when King Porus was brought before the Alexander, and Alexander asked what treatment he should be given, he said that he should be treated in the same manner as the king would be. So as they say, that if you want a fair treatment for yourself, you should also give the fair treatment to others in their action. So in a conclusion part, I would always say that ethics is not taught, it's lived. I cannot teach anyone ethics, or anyone cannot teach, even the institute cannot teach ethics either through his code or otherwise. It's lived, it's inbuilt, it's from within. If we don't think in an ethical way, if we don't feel it in an ethical way, we can never do it in an ethical way. Every small right choice creates trusted professional. Ultimately, it's the professional small decisions that over the period of time create trust on you or on yourself. So your ethical action commitment should be that starting an ethical journal to document challenging decisions, having a transparency conversation with client about limitations, proactively reporting an error before anyone else discover it, practicing empathetic listening in your next difficult conversation, and mentoring a junior colleague on ethical reasoning. If we start doing these things, if we start working on these aspects, automatically, slowly and slowly, we will get into we don't need to think about the ethical part, because every aspect of ours will become the ethical working. It will automatically get into our working. It will automatically create trust with the client, and will not be need to prove our client that we are trusted professional, but the client, our working, our actions itself will make that a trusted one. Your time is always right to do what is right. There is never a right time, but time is always right to do what is right. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation for the day, and would request and really hope that whatever discussion we did today, or whatever things we shared today, are ultimately this thing. One question is there, I think, Chani.
Yes, sir. We have one question. So the question is how to get shield from undue authority influences, undue elderly influences, and undue illegal influences.
Okay. Ultimately, what is the undue? Because when we started this discussion, we said that these are the risks we face day in, day out in our daily work, in our daily professional work, that undue influences are there because client start taking us for granted or client start to enforce its own authority on us, maybe because he thinks that since he is paying us, so he can do whatever, get the work done in whatever manner he wants. But we chartered accountants also need to understand that we are the, although we are working for the client, we are ultimately responsible for the stakeholders at large, who are the ultimate users of the financials of the client. So if any sort of those type of pressures are there, as I said, we should know how to say no. Saying no once can harm in a short run to us for economically or financially or otherwise. But in a long run, at least if we all will start saying no to undue influence or this thing, so where the client will go? Ultimately, we are the one who are providing the services to the client. So if we all will say no to certain as demand of undue demand of the client or undue pressure of the client, so he will not get it done from anywhere else. Ultimately he has to bow down and say that okay, since no one is ready to accept my undue demand or undue influence, so I have to get the work from him. He will come back to you, or even if he is not coming back to you, he will get it done from someone without that undue influence or demand.
The next question is can we summarize and conclude to be trustworthy professional CA, what is required is intellectual independence and moral independence, and not merely an intellect and intelligence with CA.
Look, only the intellect and the thing will not come. As I always said, the guiding principle is our moral. Intellect is our knowledge. Knowledge without a proper moral guidance will never give us right result. Look, Osama bin Laden was an intellect. He was a good educated person. But why he didn't use his intellect in a moral way? Even all so many other examples are there in the society where the education or an intellect will not help, only will lead to a being a trusted professional, but doing the right thing in a right manner is what is required, and that is the moral and the principles that we are talking about. That is the ethics we are talking about. That is the code of ethics which is the guiding principle. Because whenever we do anything, if we put a test on that, we should make a habit of one thing, that whenever we are taking any decision, personally or professionally, we should put it on a check on our ethical standard, on our personal ethical standards also, and a professional ethical standard also, whether it meets the requirement of our ethical standard. The moment we put it on that and we find the right answer in this thing, okay, this is right and this is wrong, it is as per our standard, so automatically there will be no doubt that I will take a right decision. So I will be guided morally only, and not only by my intellect, but with intellect, with responsibility, and with morality.
Thank you, sir. These were the only questions asked during the session. So thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session and elaborate elaboration on the topic. It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful webcast on ethics in action, developing the skills that make you a trusted professional, organized by Professional Skill Enrichment Committee ICAI. And on behalf of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee ICAI, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, CA Bhavesh Mahajan, sir, for his enlightening session. Sincere thanks to all those who have made this webcast possible and throughout the webcast. The participants, thank you so much. A wild round of applause and thanks to the organizer, the PSEC committee, ICI, our today's speaker, CA Bhavesh Mahajan, and all other stakeholders who have made this webcast a memorable. And so finally, we would like to thank all of you present here and helping us to make this podcast a grand success. Thank you all. Thank you one and all. Thank you, Bhavesh sir.
Thank you, Ravani. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We can close the session.